You see a flag in West Africa, 11 red and white stripes, a blue square in the corner, but instead of 50 stars, just one lone star. This is not America, but this flag was stitched by 7 women who had just crossed the Atlantic to return to a continent they had never once set foot on. The capital is named after James Monroe, the 5th US president, the man who never gave them full freedom. Their Independence Day is July 26th, exactly 22 days after the American 4th of July, and they declared themselves free in 1847, half a century before America abolished slavery. This is Liberia, Africa's first republic, home to the rarest pygmy hippos on Earth, left-hand surf waves that National Geographic calls the surfing capital of Africa, and the first woman ever elected to lead an African nation. Close your eyes, hear the guinea fowl calling from the canopy, smell smoke from a coal pot rendering palm oil, feel morning mist rolling across a cathedral of trees 200 feet tall, older than the United States. That's Liberia at dawn. Let me show you what you're looking at. The whole country is about 43,000 square miles, roughly the size of Tennessee. It sits on West Africa's Atlantic coast, tucked between Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Côte d'Ivoire. The coastline runs 350 miles, a little longer than the entire California coast, fringed with lagoons, mangroves, and sandbars pushed up by 6 major rivers. The highest peak, Mount Wooteve, rises 4,724 feet higher than most of the Appalachians, and half of this country, is still covered in primary rainforest. This is the Upper Guinean Forest, one of only 25 biodiversity hotspots left on the planet. Now the weather. Liberia lives 300 miles north of the equator. Temperatures hover between 75 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Warmer than Miami, wetter than New Orleans. 200 inches of rain fall on Monrovia every year, 4 times what Seattle gets. Kids grow up here without ever seeing snow except on TV. 2 seasons, dry November to April, wet May to October, and a strange little break called middle dry a few weeks in mid-July, when the rain politely takes a step back. But the wildest weather here doesn't come from the sky above. It comes from a desert 2,000 miles away. Every year, from November to February, the harmattan sweeps down from the Sahara, carrying fine red dust across all of West Africa. The sun turns deep crimson like a bedside lamp. Nights in the highlands drop to 60 degrees, and on the coast at Robertsport, some summer nights, the plankton light up the surf in glowing blue. Each dawn men climb palm trees to tap the sap. It has to be done before 7, after that the heat starts fermenting it in the bark. That's Liberia, a piece of Tennessee laid on the Atlantic, wrapped in cathedral rainforest, brushed twice a year by Sahara dust. But to really understand this place, you have to meet the 5.5 million people who built it. The first thing you'll hear when you step off the plane: how the body. 16 ethnic groups. The Kapele are the largest at 20%, mostly in the western uplands, Bassa along the middle coast, Gbowee in the southeast, Geo and Mano further north, and a 5% group that changed everything, the Americo-Liberians, descendants of roughly 15,000 freed African Americans who crossed the Atlantic starting in 1822. 5% of the population, but for 133 years they ran the country. Which brings us to Kolokwa, the local English Creole. English is Liberia's official language. thanks to those Americo-Liberian settlers. But over 2 centuries, English here evolved into something completely its own. How Gbowee means, how are you? You answer, Gbowee fine oya means yes. Small, small means slowly. Real talk, colloquia isn't hard. If you can say, how Gbowee, you can survive Monrovia. The character of the people. Warm, open, ridiculously resilient. This country walked through 2 civil wars, walked through Ebola in 2014, and still greets strangers with the biggest smile you've seen. There's a Bassa proverb, Katuen ch wumi alone, you go fast together, you go far. That's Liberia in one line. The women here shaped the modern country. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, born in Monrovia in 1938, Harvard Masters in 1971, sentenced to 10 years in prison, in 1985 escaped, came back, and in 2005 became the first elected female head of state in African history. 2 terms, Nobel Peace Prize in 2011. She shared it with Leymah Gbowee, the woman who led hundreds of Liberian women dressed in white to sit outside the peace talks until the warlords signed. They did. The war ended. And back in 1847, 7 women, led by Susanna Elizabeth Lewis, hand-stitched the very first Liberian flag. 7 women, 1 needle, 1 star. Then, the older thread, the Poro Society for men, the Sande for women. Centuries-old secret societies that initiate boys into manhood, girls into womanhood. Young people go into the forest for 1 to 3 years. They learn law, ritual, survival, respect. The masks these societies carve, the Dan masks, ended up in the Louvre in MoMA. Modernism itself was quietly touched by a Liberian village. But that flag, with the 1 lone star, it has a story, unlike any other. The story of the most paradoxical flag on Earth. 11 red and white stripes, a single white star on a blue square. Stitched in July of 1847 by 7 women, led by Susanna Elizabeth Lewis. The stripes stand for the 11 men who signed Liberia's Declaration of Independence. The 1 star, Liberia, the first independent star in the sky of Africa. Providence Island, 1 6/10 of an acre in the Mesurado River, right in Monrovia's harbor. That's where 88 freed African Americans stepped off a ship on January the 31st, 1822, after 44 days at sea from New York Harbor. 25 years later, they declared independence. Half a century before America abolished slavery. The U.S. refused to recognize Liberia until 1862. The pro-slavery lobby didn't want a free black republic. Black. The capital, named after James Monroe, the 5th U.S. president and a founding member of the society that sponsored the whole voyage. Before we step down beneath that lone star with the people of Liberia, let me know what time it is, where you're watching, and which country you're in. That single star guided 88 souls across the Atlantic in 1822. Today, let it guide me to you. Drop it in the comments, and let's keep going. Here's what's beautiful about Liberia. You can live 2 completely different lives just 3 hours apart. Start in Monrovia, 1.5 million people. The Cinco neighborhood rooftop bars, catching the last of the sunset. Artisan coffee, young diaspora kids from Providence, Rhode Island, coming back to open businesses. Down the hill, waterside market colloquia, echoing through smoke of grilled plantain and dried fish. Camp Johnson Road tailors salons, chop bars, where lunch runs $2. Up on the hill, the Ducor Hotel, a 5-star tower from the 1960s, abandoned since the war, standing there like a broken crown. The rooftop view is the best in Monrovia. Urban decay, but somehow beautiful. The biggest mobile network is called Lone Star Cell, named after the flag. Now drive 3 hours west, Gbowee County. The road turns from paved to dirt to red mud. Suddenly, you're in another century. Round thatched huts, walls of beaten earth, coal pots simmering outside every door, women in bright lapa fabric pounding cassava leaves in wooden mortars. The smell of palm butter drifts through the morning mist. The Kepel Farm, upland rice, the ancient African variety, 3,500 years old. On weekends, men climb palm trees at dawn to tap the sap. By evening, the whole village sits under the mango tree, drinking palm wine, telling stories. Here's the wild thing. $1 billion flows into these villages every year. Remittances from Providence, Minneapolis, D.C., about 25% of the entire national GDP. And here's the beautiful part. The same coal pot that simmers palm butter soup on a sinkhole rooftop also simmers it in a Capella courtyard. Same taste, same hands, same family. Speaking of coal pots, let me take you into a Liberian kitchen. The star of the show is jollof rice, but not Nigerian jollof, not Ghanaian, Liberian jollof. The difference? Red palm oil, not tomato oil. Deep red color, incredibly rich, earthy flavor. Liberians will fight you on which country has the best jollof. Trust me, it's a war. It even has a name, the Jollof Wars. It plays out on Twitter every single week. Then palm butter soup, crushed oil, palm fruit, simmered with scotch, bonnet peppers, dried fish, coconut, cassava leaf stew, the Friday special. Pepper soup, a fiery broth used as folk medicine when you're sick. Fufu dumboy GB, pounded cassava dough for scooping up sauce. Palm wine and cane juice, locally distilled sugarcane rum. And here's the tradition. Walk into a Liberian home, especially in the villages, and the host cracks a Kola nut shares half with you. The taste is bitter spicy, full of caffeine, but that's not the point. In West Africa, cracking Kola means you are welcome. You are now family. West African restaurants are opening in Providence, Minneapolis, Boston, most run by Liberian families. Jollof has crossed the Atlantic, just like the people who make it. After the food, you need music, and Liberia has a genre nobody else on earth has. It's called Hipco, hip-hop mixed with colloqua, born after the war, when young rappers needed a way to talk about what had just happened. Artists like Takunje Nasaman Santos, they built an entire genre in a decade. Hipco is protest music. It's also party music. It's the sound of a country rebuilding itself in real time. Older than that is palm wine music, acoustic guitar tunes, born on the beaches of Cape Mesurado in the 1930s. That style traveled, it shaped high life in Ghana, influenced Nigerian and Sierra Leonean sound. Between you and me, I met an old man in a palm wine bar along the Mesurado coast, guitar in hand. He looked up and said, "This is a Sammy Agri song from 1969, before the war. We still play it, because music is how our ancestors remember us." But if you ask, what's the most miraculous thing in Liberia, it's not the music, it's a little creature, only about 2,000 left on Earth, and Liberia is its last home. Close your eyes. You're standing in Sapo National Park, 697 square miles of primary rainforest, twice the size of Rhode Island. Cathedral trees rising 200 feet above you. The moon is up. Mist coils across a swampy hollow. Out of the darkness slowly, a small creature emerges, about the size of a large goat. Meet the pygmy hippopotamus. She weighs 400 to 600 pounds, 6 times smaller than the common hippo. Only 30 inches tall, skin jet black, smooth as wet stone. And she is one of only about 2,000 pygmy hippos left in the wild on the entire planet. 70% of them live right here in Liberia. Sapo is their last stronghold. She is nocturnal. She lives alone. Unlike her larger cousin, she doesn't form herds. She eats only plants. She needs both fresh water and old-growth forest right next to each other. And she gets it here. The Bassa call her Mrs. the creature of the swamp. Now a story you need to hear. In 1927, a female pygmy hippo named Billy was gifted to U.S. President Calvin Coolidge, a diplomatic present from the Firestone Plantation. Billy went to the National Zoo in Washington. She lived. She had babies. Her descendants live in 21 American zoos today. Bronx, San Diego, Cincinnati. Every pygmy hippo you've ever seen in a U.S. zoo traces back to a female born in the Liberian swamp almost a century ago. Every time you stand at that enclosure, you're looking at a piece of Liberia, 100 years after the very first crossing. But if you think Billy was Liberia's greatest gift to the world, wait until I tell you about the art that reshaped Western history. Now here's where it gets interesting. Liberia quietly reshaped modern Western art. The Dan mask, carved from a single block of soft wood. Exaggerated features, high forehead, narrow eyes, mouth pushed forward. Used by the Poro and Sand societies in initiation. Each mask is not decoration. Each mask is a spirit made physical. The person wearing it during ritual is no longer themselves. In the early 1900s, traders brought Dan masks to Paris. Picasso saw them at the Trocadero Museum in 1907. He wrote that this was the primal energy he'd been searching for. Matisse followed. Cubism drew from a workshop in a Liberian village. Today, Dan masks live in the Louvre, in the Metropolitan Museum, in MoMA. Millions of people pass them every year, having no idea they're looking at Liberia. And there's one more thing. Liberia gave the world a writing system born from a dream. Speaking of impossible things, around 133, in a village called Jondu, a Vai trader named Momolu Duwalu Bukele had a dream. A tall man in a long coat appeared carrying a book. The stranger said, "These signs stand for sounds and meanings in your language." Bukele woke up. He couldn't remember the exact signs, so he sat with friends and elders, and together they created a syllabary. Not an alphabet, a syllabary like the Cherokee writing system in America. 212 characters, each one a full syllable of Vai. Within a generation, tens of thousands of Vai were reading and writing in their own script. And here's the American connection. Historians argue Bukele may have been indirectly influenced by Cherokee migrants who settled on the Liberian coast. Two indigenous scripts from opposite sides of an ocean quietly touching each other in West Africa. But if you want the most magical moment in Liberia, it's not in a book. It's on the crest of a wave. Dawn on the Cape Mount Peninsula. Mist rolling off Lake Piso. In the water, 100 local surfers already paddling out. This is Robertsport, 50 miles northwest of Monrovia. National Geographic called it the surfing capital of Africa. Left-hand waves 6 to 8 feet, sometimes bigger. Rides 300 yards down the beach. Surfing here didn't exist before the war. After 2003, American expats brought boards. Local kids copied. Now, there are over 100 Liberian surfers in this small town, dozens of teenagers who traded street life for wave life. The Robertsport Surf Club gives boards to children every afternoon. 25-year-old Irene George, everyone calls her Butterfly, teaches young girls how to surf. She says, the wave is where a Liberian girl gets to be free. From civil war to surf clubs, Liberia found its way back home across the ocean. We've made it halfway through the journey, my friend. If you're loving Liberia the way I'm loving it right now, drop a Kola in the comments below. In West Africa, when you crack a Kola nut with someone, you've become their friend. We've cracked the shell. The second half goes deeper. Stay with me. The story of two women who changed a continent. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, born in Monrovia, 1938. Masters from Harvard in 1971. In 1985, under the Doe regime, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison for a speech given at a Liberian Independence Day event in Philadelphia. She escaped, lived in Kenya, refused to stop. In 2005, after the war ended, she ran for president and won. She became the first elected female head of state in the entire history of Africa. 2 terms. She rebuilt a country from ashes. Then, Leymah, Gbowee. In 2003, at the peak of the Second Civil War, Leymah organized thousands of women, Christian and Muslim, from every ethnic group to dress in white and sit outside the peace talks in Ghana until the warlords signed a treaty. They did. The war ended within months. In 2011, the Nobel Peace Prize went to both. 2 Liberian women, 1 Nobel, 1 year. Here is a country where women do not say we can. They say we already did. Speaking of celebrating, Liberia's 26th of July is unlike any Independence Day you have seen. On July 26, 1847, Joseph Jenkins Roberts declared Liberia's independence. Every year since, the country celebrates it as 26th Day, military parade, cultural performances at the Executive Mansion. The president delivers the address. Then the whole country parties. But here's the thing. On that same day, this very second, about 10,000 Liberian diaspora gather at the embassy in Washington and community centers in Providence, Rhode Island, and Minneapolis and Philadelphia. 500,000 Liberian Americans remembering home from across the ocean. Then there's Flag Day, August 24th, the day the country honors the 7 women who hand-stitched the very first Lone Star flag in 1847. At Christmas, children put on paper masks and go door to door asking for candy like Halloween, but on the wrong holiday. Not gonna lie, if you want to see a country love its flag, be in Monrovia on August 24th. Listen to the children singing 11 stripes, 1 star, because we are free. Any story worth telling has hard chapters. Liberia has walked through some of the hardest, and here is what makes them wonderful. In 2014, the Ebola outbreak hit West Africa. Liberia was one of 3 countries hit hardest. Thousands of families lost people they loved. But in this matters, Liberia became the first country declared Ebola-free by the World Health Organization in May of 2015. Liberian doctors went on to train health workers across Africa. They didn't just survive, they taught the continent how. Then the rainy season. 200 inches of rain turn dirt roads to red mud from June to September. Sapo requires a 4x4, but the new Monrovia to Gbowee highway, finished in 2026, shaved 2 hours off the drive. Poverty is real GDP, just $4 billion, but $1 billion flows in every year from the diaspora feeding villages and schools. So why don't Liberians leave? Why do 500,000 diaspora keep coming back? This is what you need to hear. If you ask any Liberian why they don't leave, they will smile and answer with a story. Not an answer, a story. Reason 1, the people. How the body never gets old. Said to strangers, to children, to old men on the bus. After surviving war and Ebola, Liberians know something the rest of us are still figuring out. Laughter is how you heal. There's a grandmother in a Gbowee village who lost 3 sons in the war. She still cooks jollof rice for anyone who walks through her door. She told me, if I stop cooking, I stop living. Reason 2, Providence Island at sunset. That tiny island where the ancestors first stepped off in 1822. Every evening, Monrovians walk out there, sit in the golden light off the Meserado, and just breathe. Reason 3, the diaspora comes home. 500,000 Liberians live in Providence, Minneapolis, DC. Every July, thousands fly back for 26 days. Young entrepreneurs open rooftop cafes in Syncor and surf resorts in Robertsport. There's a Capella proverb, country is where your umbilical cord is buried. Reason 4, the Kola nut. Walk into a Liberian home, the host cracks one and shares half. You don't pay. You just have to show up. That's a thing you cannot find in New York or Boston or DC. Liberia isn't perfect. The roads still flood. The lights still flicker. But every dawn, someone climbs a palm tree to tap the sap. Someone stirs palm butter soup. Someone paddles out into the surf. This is a country that teaches you one truth. Happiness is not where you arrive. It's where you are welcomed. Before we wrap up under the Lone Star, here's the practical stuff. When to go? The best window is November through April. Dry season, warm days, cool nights, dry roads. February and March are peak Robertsport surf season. For the biggest party of the year, come for 26th day on July 26th. Crowded and pricier, but you will not forget it. Money. On a budget $30 to $50 a day. Hostels in Monrovia run $10 a night. Street food cassava leaf, fufu, jollof $5. Mid-range $100 to $200 a day guest houses near Roberts International for 50 restaurant meals with grilled fish for 15, shared 4-wheel drive tours for 20. Luxury $200 to $400 a day, the Farmington Hotel starts at $150. Sapo National Park entry is $10 to $30 plus, $50 to $80 for a guide. Flying in, round trip from New York, DC or Atlanta runs $1,200 to $1,800 via Brussels or Casablanca. Delta restored direct connections through JFK in 2024. Currency, the Liberian dollar, about 200 to 1 US dollar. But US dollars circulate everywhere. Visa. Americans need one. The e-visa launched in 2025, 3 to 5 days, $150. Vietnamese travelers apply through the Liberian embassy in Beijing or Tokyo, $100 for a 30-day tourist visa. Everyone needs a yellow fever vaccination certificate, not optional. A few laws. Photos of police, military, government buildings, you need permission first. Exporting antique masks is illegal. Drugs are strict, do not risk it. And respect Poro, and sanda ceremonies. If you see masked dancers on the street, do not film them unless invited. That's the practical part. Now let me leave you with one last thing. Liberia, 11 red and white stripes, 1 lone star, 350 miles of Atlantic coast, 2,000 pygmy hippos hiding in a Rhode Island-sized rainforest, and a greeting, howdy body, that exists nowhere else on Earth. If you ever step foot here, you will take something home. Not a memory, not a photograph, just a feeling, the feeling of being welcomed. Because Liberia is not just a country, it is a decision. The decision of those who crossed the Atlantic to find home. The decision of those who stayed. And now, the decision of you. If Liberia just made your bucket list drop a howdy body in the comments, you just joined the family. If this journey warmed your heart, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Many more countries lie ahead, and to paddle this canoe across the ocean, I need you with me. Where is our next port? Sierra Leone, Ghana, Bhutan, Peru. Drop your pick. Until we paddle again, peace from the land of the Lone Star. See you at the next shore.